Happy Sunday from Lucky Rooster Farm. Today I'm going to read Ice Cream, written and photographed by William Jaspersohn. Ice Cream, written and photographed by William Jaspersohn. For Heinz Klutmeyer. The author wishes to thank Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield and all the employees past and present at Ben & Jerry's who helped make this book possible. There are many other people who are thanked as well. Smooth and creamy, sweet and cold, ice cream is America's most popular dessert food. No country makes more ice cream than the United States, and no country eats more. Americans eat ice cream at an average rate of 15 quarts a year per person, and American factories produce ice cream at an annual rate of 923.6 million gallons. Over 10% of all the milk produced in the United States goes into making ice cream. It is a $3.9 billion a year business. Now, this was written in 1988, so if you want to go on your own to research how much money ice cream makes in the United States per year, or how much ice cream an average person eats every year, or how many gallons of ice cream each American factory produces, and how much of the milk in the United States goes towards making ice cream, those are things you need to look up, because it's been a long time since 1988, and the numbers are likely increased. Americans love ice cream, but who makes it for them, and how? And how does it get from where it's made into the hands of the people who eat it? Some of the ice cream that Americans love to eat is made here at the Ben & Jerry's ice cream plant in Waterbury, Vermont. The plant employs 150 people who work 5 days a week making ice cream at a rate of 100,000 pints a day, 3.5 million gallons a year. The popularity of the product can be seen in the crowds that stream daily onto the grounds to buy their favorite flavors from the company's ice cream parlor and to take the plant tour. Much of the success of Ben & Jerry's as a company is due to the efforts of its founders, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield. Ben & Jerry required that all the ingredients in their ice cream be fresh and of the highest quality, and that the chunks in their chunk-style ice creams be tasty, plentiful, and big. "We never use any artificial ingredients," says Jerry. "We could, but we wouldn't like the result. What we're making," adds Ben, "is a super premium ice cream. We want it to be the very best ice cream in the world." To help ensure the highest quality of their product, Ben & Jerry's buys its chief ingredients, milk and cream, from a nearby supplier, the St. Albans Cooperative Creamery. Dairy farmer George Pigeon, who lives in Georgia, Vermont, is a member of that cooperative, along with 474 other milk producers. Boy, all these numbers could be checked to compare what they are today. George milks his cows twice a day, at dawn and 12 hours later. Every afternoon at 4:20 sharp, George, his son Morris, his grandson Chris, and the hired man Michael Gaudette drive George's 92 Holstein cows down from the pastures into a low wooden shed. From there, Michael and Morris let the cows into the milking parlor, 6 at a time, to be milked. All the milking equipment works electronically, and the warm milk, fresh from the cow's udders, is automatically pumped into a stainless steel cooling tank in a room off the barn called the milk house. Three mornings a week, a tank truck arrives at the milk house to take milk to the creamery. The driver, Tom Phillips, attaches a hose from the truck to the milk tank and then checks the measuring stick at the tank's top to see just how much milk there actually is. Today, there are 39.5 inches of milk in the tank, or over 900 gallons. Before starting the pump on the truck, Tom draws a small sample of the milk into a glass vial for testing later at the creamery's laboratory. Minutes later, after all the milk has been pumped from the tank, Tom hooks up the washing equipment, which automatically washes and rinses the tank for the next batch of milk from George Pigeon's cows that afternoon. By law, the creamery must refuse milk contaminated with disease-causing bacteria, so keeping the milking equipment clean is important. At the St. Albans Cooperative Creamery, Tom gives the milk sample from the pigeon farm to a lab technician who checks it under a microscope for bacteria growth. Once the technician has okayed the milk, Tom can pump it into one of the creamery's 6 big storage silos. Within 24 hours, the milk is piped into machines called centrifugal separators. The separators spin the raw product, causing part of it, called skimmed milk, to be thrown along the inside walls of the machine, and the other part, the cream, to rise up in the machine's middle. The cream is then heated to kill bacteria that might have started growing in it, and the skimmed milk is moved into huge 6-story vacuum evaporators, where it is steam heated to remove some of its water. By the next day, 2 tank trucks, one holding 10,000 gallons of cream and the other an equal amount of skimmed condensed milk, are on their way to Ben & Jerry's. Meanwhile, another chief ingredient of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, cane sugar, is prepared for shipment at the Amster refinery in Charleston, Massachusetts. Sugar refining is an old business dating back to the early 1700s. In the countries where it is grown, sugarcane, which is actually a species of grass, is cut into stalks and squeezed of its sweet, sugary juice. Boiling the juice causes the water to evaporate and the sugar in it to turn into small crystals. Amstar receives this raw crystallized sugar by ship from nations the world over, from the Dominican Republic, Mozambique, Madagascar, Mexico, Brazil, El Salvador, Fiji, Honduras, wherever sugarcane is grown. Amstar stores the raw sugar in a huge circular aluminum shed called the dome. Inside, the dome is as big as a football field, and the sugar forms a mountain some 50 feet tall. Throughout the day and into the night, a big machine called a payloader moves the pale brown sugar onto conveyor belts that carry it into the refinery for processing. After being washed of its protective molasses coating, which has kept the sugar from hardening into a single enormous lump, the sugar is dissolved in hot water, and the liquid, which is called sugar liquor, goes through a number of refining processes. It is clarified with phosphoric acid and lime, which helps start ridding it of impurities. It is filtered, first under pressure, in vats of filtering material called diatomaceous earth, then through towers filled with cattle bones that have been burned into charcoal and ground to the consistency of fine pebbles. Strange as these processes may seem, they all help to purify the sugar. The light yellow sugar liquor is now sparkling clear and 99.9% pure. It is ready to be crystallized in vacuum vessels that heat the liquid under vacuum to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Technicians watch the liquor closely, using special rods to draw small samples of it from the vessels. When the liquor is the consistency of thick slush, it is dropped into centrifuges 1 floor below. The inner wall of each centrifuge is lined with fine stainless steel mesh. The centrifuges spin the slush, and the syrupy part of it passes through the mesh, leaving the pure crystallized sugar behind. Later, this sugar is dried, melted into hot pure water, filtered yet again, and shipped in liquid form by truck to Ben & Jerry's. When a tank truck full of sugar, cream, or condensed milk arrives at Ben & Jerry's, it is driven into a receiving bay, where a Ben & Jerry's worker pumps the ingredient out. Cream and condensed milk are stored in tall refrigerator tanks in a chilly, narrow room called the tank room. Egg yolks, also essential for making high-quality ice cream, are kept in a freezer until needed. And ingredients that don't need refrigeration, such as sugar, which is pumped into its own tank, and cocoa, are stored in the company warehouse. When the time comes to make a new batch of ice cream, a worker sets dials and pushes buttons on a big stainless steel switchboard. This causes precise amounts of sugar, cream, and condensed milk to flow into a shiny 1,000-gallon vat called a blend tank. While the tank fills with these liquids, the worker lays out the necessary dry ingredients. Those include cocoa, since this batch will be chocolate ice cream, and a powder called stabilizer, which improves the ice cream's thickness and texture. Stabilizer is actually a mixture of two things: carrageenan, which comes from a seaweed called Irish moss, and guar gum, which comes from a plant grown in India. While a blade in the blend tank stirs the soupy mix, the worker thickens it further with bucketfuls of egg yolks and bagfuls of cocoa. In all, he will pour into the tank some 40 gallons of egg yolks and 400 pounds of dried cocoa. All the ingredients combined will produce about 750 gallons of rich, chocolatey ice cream. Once all the egg yolks, cocoa, sugar, cream, stabilizer, and condensed milk are thoroughly blended, the mix must be heated to rid it of any bacteria. Heating for this purpose is called pasteurization. The process is named after Louis Pasteur, the French doctor who invented it in 1864. The pasteurizer looks like a little old-fashioned steam radiator, and in a way, that's how it works. Water-heated metal plates on one side of the pasteurizer quickly heat the ice cream mix to 183 degrees Fahrenheit and keep it at that temperature for 25 seconds, which kills any bacteria. After the mix has been further blended, water-cooled plates on the other side of the pasteurizer quickly chill it to 38 degrees Fahrenheit. The blending that occurs before the mix is chilled is called homogenization. The cream in the mix is filled with big globules of what ice cream makers and dairy people call butterfat. The homogenizer breaks up these fat globules by forcing the mix under high pressure through tiny valves. If the globules weren't broken up, they would float to the surface of the mix and ruin the finished ice cream. Homogenization then spreads the butterfat evenly throughout the mix, ensuring a smooth, better-tasting product. Pasteurized and homogenized, the mix is now pumped into a storage tank where it ages at 38 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of 4 hours. Aging helps thicken the mix. The cream starts to harden and the water swells the particles of stabilizer. 4 hours later, those mixes that require liquid flavorings are drawn into the flavor vat. There, a worker adds precise amounts of such liquids as vanilla for Ben & Jerry's vanilla ice cream and mint extract for their mint with Oreo cookies. You don't need much. 2 gallons of vanilla, for example, are enough to flavor 300 gallons of mix. The mix is ready for perhaps its most important process, freezing. The ice cream freezer through which it now passes does 2 things at the same time. High-speed blades inside the freezer whip the mix, adding air to it, and chemical-filled metal coils around the whipping chamber freeze the water in the mix into tiny ice crystals. Both these steps are critical if the finished ice cream is to have the proper smoothness and texture. In the company's quality control lab, trained technicians test the mix for butterfat content, freshness, and purity, checking to make sure that each mix is of the highest quality. Here, too, new ice cream flavors are developed, tested, and sampled. The latest product on the market? Big, thick, chocolate-covered ice cream bars, which Ben & Jerry like to taste test themselves. Some mixes piped out of the freezer have dry ingredients, such as fruits and nuts, added to them. One of the most popular flavors is Heath Bar Crunch. The company buys the Heath Bar candy bars in boxes of 240 each. To prepare the bars for the ice cream, a worker lifts a boxful over his head and hurls it several times to the floor. This cracks the bars into bite-sized bits and chunks. When Ben & Jerry started their ice cream business, they broke the Heath bars by dropping boxfuls of them off a stepladder. The hurling technique, they discovered, does the job faster and more easily. Oreo cookies from Mint with Oreo Cookies ice cream comes to the plant pre-broken. All chunks, chips, cookies, nuts, and fruit for the ice cream are hand-scooped into a stainless steel hopper. I'm not sure if those ice cream flavors exist anymore. I think the first one, instead of Heath Bar Crunch, might be Coffee Toffee Crunch, but I'm not sure about the mint with Oreo cookies. The hopper is attached to a machine called a fruit feeder, which blends the dry ingredients with the ice cream in controlled amounts. At 22 degrees Fahrenheit, the ice cream is soft enough to mix easily with the different kinds of chunks. The ice cream is also soft enough to be packed into specially printed Ben & Jerry's pint-sized containers. Pipes carry the finished ice cream from the freezer and the fruit feeder to workers, who hand pack it at a rate of about 40 pints a minute. They fill 40 pints a minute. Can you imagine? Packing ice cream steadily over long periods can get boring, so packers work in short shifts. Packers do other tasks as well, such as putting lids on the ice cream and fetching more pint containers from the warehouse. Can you imagine spending your whole day filling pints with ice cream like that and putting the lids on? Every day at your job. At the same time, pipes also feed ice cream to the automatic filler, which can pack twice as fast as any worker. A dispenser drops pint cups into a metal ring, and a valve automatically fills each cup with ice cream as the cup is rotated underneath it. Then a conveyor moves lids out of a bin, an arm automatically drops the lids in place on the filled cups, and another arm flips the lidded pint out of the ring. Another conveyor moves the pint on for further packaging. Automation such as this means greater output. A single automatic filler can pack over 120,000 pints of ice cream in a single day. As the pints of fresh ice cream move along the conveyor, they pass over a printing machine that automatically prints 2 sets of numbers on each pint. One is the lot code, which is the number assigned to the particular batch. The other is the expiration date, or the last date that the ice cream should be sold. Properly frozen, Ben & Jerry's ice cream can be sold up until a year after it's made, so that is the date printed on the container. After the pints are stamped, they are automatically wrapped in plastic in packs of 8 for storage and shipping. Sometimes when the plant is particularly busy, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield themselves help on the packing line. Today, Jerry puts in some time on the line, hand cleaning the pints before they are wrapped.
I want to see, Mom.
Something tells me they don't do that anymore.
I want to see. Whoa.
2 different flavors of the ice cream have been made during the shift, Heath Bar Crunch and chocolate. Through the packing procedure, the ice cream has been in a semi-soft state at 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, however, it must be frozen hard so that it is fresh and tasty when it reaches consumers. How does Ben & Jerry's harden its ice cream? An odd-looking freezing device is used. 25 feet tall, it is called a spiral hardener. Packages of ice cream entering the bottom of the hardener on a conveyor are slowly drawn upward on a spiraling flexible belt. The air temperature inside the hardener room is minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. With the wind chill factor, thanks to the room's fans, the effective temperature is minus 60 degrees. 3 hours after entering the hardener, the ice cream is brick hard and frozen solid. This guy looks very cold. Now a conveyor moves the ice cream down from the top of the spiral hardener to a storage freezer. There's a member of the Ben & Jerry's freezer crew. A member of the Ben & Jerry's freezer crew stacks the ice cream on sturdy wooden pallets. Stacking in this fashion makes the ice cream easier to move by forklift. The storage freezer area, which can hold 1 million pints, is a slightly less chilly minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Company rules say that crewmen who work here must wear heavy hooded jumpsuits, warm boots, and mittens and no one is allowed to remain in the area for more than an hour at a time. The storage freezer area can hold 1 million pints. Imagine the million cube that's been in our classroom lately. And imagine that 1 unit is 1 pint. 1 million pints of ice cream. Ice cream stays in the storage freezer no longer than 10 days. In recent years, the demand for Ben & Jerry's ice cream has been so great that the company has had to work overtime to meet orders. The man in charge of selling Ben & Jerry's ice cream to stores and supermarkets throughout the country is Rick Brown. He supervises a sale team that has found markets for the ice cream in 25 states nationwide. Stores in New York City alone buy 40,000 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream a day. And this was in 1988. Still, Rick will not be happy until the ice cream is selling in all 50 states. It probably is now. To help spread the word about their product in new markets, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield record radio commercials, make public appearances, give speeches, and pose for print advertisements. The company also sends a beautifully painted bus called a Cowmobile through the country to distribute free ice cream samples. Such advertising and promotion efforts pay off. The more people know about Ben & Jerry's ice cream, the more they buy it. And the more they buy it, the bigger the company's profits are.
Could we go over to Freya? I want Bella to come over to walk.
Twice a week at 7 o'clock in the morning, big refrigerator trucks roll up to the plant to pick up shipments of ice cream. Driver Terry Whitney waits as the temperature drops inside his truck's insulated trailer. When a gauge on the outside wall reaches 0 degrees Fahrenheit, the trailer is cold enough to receive the ice cream. Terry will drive the 5,000 pints of ice cream that he receives today to a main distributor in Conway, New Hampshire. In turn, the main distributor will ship the ice cream to secondary distributors, who will ship it to stores and supermarkets throughout the East. Distributors in other parts of the country follow the same procedure. Ben & Jerry's has its own trucks and drivers for shipping ice cream to stores and restaurants in Vermont. The drivers work fast, wheeling the pints where they must go, but they always stack them carefully in neat rows. The last step in the process that started with raw ingredients happens now. People buy the ice cream, and the money they pay for it provides profits for the store, the distributors, and Ben & Jerry's. Profits are what keep companies alive, and a profitable company means jobs for many people. Of course, nobody is supposed to think about these things when holding a fresh cone full of ice cream. Smooth and creamy, sweet and cold, ice cream isn't made to be thought about. It's made to be eaten. Now, I don't agree with that. I think the next time you have some ice cream, you should think of all of the people that helped make that ice cream and all the places all the ingredients came from. We're going to talk about this again, so keep that in mind next time you eat some ice cream. Have a great day.